Nathan never imagined his life would change because of a roommate request on a government program. He only wanted to save rent, maybe make a new friend and live quietly in his small apartment in New Seattle. But when his new roommate arrived, everything about his world, his thoughts, his beliefs would begin to change. Because his new roommate wasn't human. She wasn't even from Earth. Her name was Velra, and she was an alien from a distant star system. Called Thrixon Prime, the government called it a cultural exchange program. The idea was simple: pair a human with an alien, scholar to promote understanding between species. But the moment Nathan saw Velra standing in his doorway, he realized this was more than just an experiment in friendship. Velra looked delicate but not fragile. Her skin shimmered faintly like silver mist under moonlight. Her large eyes glowed a pale blue, always calm yet filled with something unexplainable, like she was seeing everything for the first time and trying to memorize it all. Her movements were graceful and strange, as if gravity treated her differently. She spoke softly, her voice a blend of sound and melody, calm and curious. Nathan was awkward at first. He didn't know what to say to her. He kept thinking he'd offend her somehow or say something dumb about aliens. But Velra was patient. She asked questions, hundreds of them. About Earth, food, animals, even how humans dreamed. Every day she filled notebooks with sketches and notes. Sometimes she stayed up all night watching documentaries, fascinated by everything that made humans human. Over time, their friendship grew naturally. Nathan started to enjoy her company. He taught her how to cook simple meals: scrambled eggs, pancakes, grilled cheese sandwiches. Velra, in return, showed him small tricks using her technology. She could make objects hover, clean an entire room with a flick of her hand, and project holograms so real that Nathan sometimes forgot what was real and what wasn't. But what surprised Nathan most wasn't her technology. It was her kindness. She listened when he talked about his lonely life, his struggles to find meaning after losing his parents. She would tilt her head, her soft, glowing eyes focused on him completely, as if every word he spoke was precious knowledge. "Humans feel so much," she once said quietly. "You hurt, you love, you keep going, my people. We study emotions, but we don't live them like you do." That sentence stayed with him. One cold evening, while Nathan was fixing the kitchen sink, Velra appeared behind him silently, holding her glowing notebook. "Nathan," she said, "may I study your DNA?" He turned, confused. "My DNA? Like a blood test?" Velra nodded slowly, her voice calm but serious. "Yes. I wish to understand humans at the deepest level, beyond what can be seen or felt. Your kind is unique in the galaxy. You adapt to everything. You survive every environment, every pain. I want to know why." Nathan blinked. "You mean, you want to experiment on me?" He tried to make it sound like a joke, but there was nervous laughter in his voice. Velra's glowing eyes dimmed slightly, a sign of sadness. "No harm, only observation. I promise I will not hurt you. I only want to understand what makes your kind so strong." There was something sincere in her voice, something honest. She wasn't doing it for power or fame. She was genuinely curious, almost reverent. Nathan hesitated. He didn't like the idea, but he trusted her. Over the past few months, she had become more than just a roommate. She was a friend, maybe even the only one he had. Finally, he sighed and said, "Okay, but no weird stuff, all right?" Velra smiled faintly, the corners of her lips curving in the closest thing her species had to a human smile. Agreed. That night, she took a small sample, a drop of blood, nothing more. Her tools were silent and gentle, like beams of light that hummed softly. Nathan didn't feel any pain, only curiosity. Velra worked quietly, studying, scanning, writing notes in alien symbols that glowed faintly across her tablet. As he watched her, Nathan couldn't help but wonder what she might find. To him, he was just an ordinary man, nothing special, nothing worth studying. But to Velra, he was a window into the mystery of humanity itself. Before going to bed, she looked at him one last time and said softly, "You humans are far more complex than you think. I can feel it." "In your cells?" Nathan laughed tiredly, thinking she was exaggerating. But Velra wasn't smiling anymore. She stared at the blood sample glowing under her scanner, her expression unreadable. Outside, the city lights flickered through the window, and in that quiet apartment, an experiment had begun. One that would soon change not just Nathan's life, but everything the galaxy thought it knew about humans. The morning after Velra took Nathan's blood sample, something changed in the apartment. The air felt heavier, quieter, filled with a strange tension that Nathan couldn't explain. Velra barely spoke that day. She stayed in her lab room, the door closed, strange blue light glowing from underneath it. Nathan could hear the faint hum of alien machines and soft echoes of her voice, whispering in her native language. At first, Nathan thought she was just busy. She often got lost in her research. But when night came and she still hadn't eaten, he began to worry. He knocked on her door. "Velra, you okay in there?" No answer. He knocked again, this time louder. Finally, her voice came through the door, soft, distracted, almost distant. "Yes, Nathan. I am analyzing. Please do not enter." He sighed, leaning against the wall. "You've been in there all day. Come on, you need a break." But there was silence again, only the faint rhythm of alien technology pulsing behind the metal door. He decided to let her be. Scientists got weird when they were focused, he told himself. Maybe it was normal, but deep down, something didn't feel normal. 3 days passed. Velra's behavior grew stranger. She stopped asking questions, stopped watching human documentaries, and even forgot to recharge the cleaning drones she usually kept running. Her eyes, once bright and curious, looked tired. She seemed distracted, always lost in thought. One night, Nathan finally found her sitting on the floor of her lab, surrounded by floating holograms filled with moving patterns and codes. The room smelled faintly of ozone and something sweet, like charged air after lightning. "Velra," he said quietly, stepping closer. "You're scaring me a little. What's going on?" Velra didn't look up. Her fingers moved across her tablet, controlling the glowing strands of data that twisted in the air like living light. "Nathan, your DNA is not what I expected." He frowned. "What do you mean?" She finally turned her head, her silver hair falling over her shoulders. "It is alive in a way I cannot explain. It learns. It heals itself faster than any sequence I've ever seen. It adapts, changing patterns as if aware of danger." Nathan tried to understand, but science was never his thing. "So it's good, right? Humans are just tough." Velra shook her head slowly. "It is more than toughness. It's as if your very cells have memory. They remember pain, loss, fear, and they evolve from it, not over centuries, Nathan, over moments." She stared at the holograms, eyes glowing brighter. "Your kind is not just biological. You are something. Between flesh and energy, between chaos and life." Nathan felt uneasy. "You make it sound like we're monsters." Her expression softened. "No, not monsters, miracles." She stood and walked closer to him, placing a hand gently on his arm. Her skin was cool and smooth, like glass. "Do you know why my people study humans?" she asked. He shook his head. "Because you survive everything," she whispered. "Radiation, disease, war, heartbreak, loneliness, you endure. We have seen entire species fall from minor changes in their stars, but humans, you bend and you keep standing." Nathan swallowed hard. There was something in her voice, admiration but also fear. "So what happens now? You gonna tell your people?" Velra's eyes flickered. "I do not know. They will not understand. To them, DNA is just code. They do not see the will behind it." He frowned. "Will?" "Yes," she said softly. "Your cells fight. They protect. Even now, your DNA inside my systems is resisting my scanners. It tries to rewrite my code. It wants to survive, Nathan. It's as if your essence refuses to be contained." Nathan's stomach turned cold. "Wait, my DNA is fighting your machines?" She nodded slowly. "It is harmless for now, but I fear what will happen if others discover this. They will not see you as people. They will see you as a key, a weapon." That night, Velra sat by the window, staring at the stars. The blue glow of her skin dimmed to silver shadows. Nathan joined her quietly, handing her a cup of coffee. She had grown to love its warmth, even if she didn't drink it often. "You know," Nathan said softly, "you're talking about us like we're some kind of miracle species, but we're not. We just try to live. We mess up a lot. We break things. We hurt each other. We just keep going because we have to." Velra smiled faintly. "That is exactly what makes you so rare. My kind never understood failure. You humans learn from it." Nathan looked out at the stars, wondering how many other beings out there might be watching Earth right now. "Maybe that's why we're still here," he said quietly. "We just don't know when to give up." Velra looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly brighter. No, she whispered, almost reverently. You don't know how to give up. And that is something the galaxy should fear. The two sat in silence, the stars shining above them. Neither of them realized it yet, but Velra's discovery would soon draw attention far beyond Earth. Attention that would change everything for both of them. For the next few days, Velra barely spoke. Nathan could sense that something was changing inside her. She wasn't just curious anymore, she was troubled. Her calm smile was gone, replaced by long silences and distant stares. She spent most of her time locked inside her lab, surrounded by floating screens of data, her fingers moving endlessly over glowing symbols that Nathan couldn't understand. Sometimes, Nathan would wake up in the middle of the night and hear her voice through the thin wall, whispering to herself in her alien language. Her tone was worried, almost frightened. The hum of her machines never stopped. The apartment had once felt alive with conversation and laughter. Now it felt cold, like a quiet laboratory filled with secrets. Finally, on the fourth night, Nathan couldn't take it anymore. He pushed open her lab door. Velra, talk to me. You've been hiding in here for days. What's going on? She looked up slowly from her desk. Her silver eyes flickered weakly as if she hadn't slept. The room was glowing with faint light from dozens of floating holograms. Strange DNA sequences rotated in the air like living spirals of color. Nathan, she said softly, I made a mistake. He frowned. What kind of mistake? Velra gestured toward the glowing spirals. Your DNA sample. I thought it was only a biological study, but your cells are not like anything I have ever seen before. They react to observation. Nathan blinked. React? Like they move when you look at them? Velra stood, her hands trembling slightly. When I scanned them, the data changed. The code began rewriting itself. At first, I thought it was an error, but then it adapted to my machines. It learned how they worked. Nathan laughed nervously. You're saying my blood learned your alien tech? That's impossible. Velra shook her head, her voice breaking. It is not impossible. It happened. And that means something terrible. He felt a chill crawl down his back. Velra, what does it mean? It means, she whispered, humans are not ordinary life forms. You are not just survivors, you are evolution itself. Your DNA changes faster than time can record. It learns, fights, heals, even resists control. When I tried to isolate it, it escaped the containment barrier. It tried to merge with my data system. Nathan took a step back, fear tightening in his chest. You mean my blood infected your computer? Velra nodded slowly. Yes, but not like a virus. It didn't destroy, it transformed. It repaired broken code, filled missing data, and adapted my entire system to function better. Nathan, your DNA improved my machine. He stared at her in disbelief. That doesn't make sense. It shouldn't, she said quietly, but it does. It's as if your body carries the memory of survival itself. Pain, loss, death. Your species has turned all of it into strength. That is why you humans keep enduring. You evolve through suffering. Nathan felt something heavy inside him. So what are you going to do with this? Velra's face turned pale, her voice almost shaking. I don't know. If my people find out, they will want to use it. They will want to take human DNA and integrate it into themselves. You don't understand, Nathan. On Thrixon, we are dying. Our evolution stopped centuries ago. We cannot change anymore. We live long, but without growth. Your DNA is everything we lost, Nathan stared at her. You mean they'd experiment on humans? She nodded silently. Yes, if they knew, they wouldn't stop. They'd harvest, study, clone, anything to possess this gift. That is why I cannot send my findings home. The room fell silent. Nathan could hear his heart beating fast in his chest. The idea that his blood, something so small, could attract the attention of an entire alien species terrified him. Velra closed her eyes and whispered, I shouldn't have done this. I thought I was studying life, but now I see what your DNA truly is. It's defiance. It's hope written in flesh. No wonder your kind survives every storm. Nathan looked at her, his voice soft. Velra, you didn't do anything wrong. You just wanted to understand. She opened her eyes, tears forming in the corners. Clear, shining drops that glowed faintly blue. I wanted to understand, yes. But I think now I understand too much. Nathan reached out and touched her hand gently. It was cold, trembling slightly. Then maybe it's time to stop the experiment. Velra looked at him, her lips parting as if to argue, but then she just nodded. Yes, she whispered. It's time. But as she shut down her machines one by one, Nathan noticed one hologram still flickering in the corner of the room. A single line of code pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. He didn't mention it. Maybe it was nothing. Or maybe deep within Velra's system his DNA was still alive, still learning, still adapting. Outside, the night sky was full of stars. Velra looked out at them, her expression both fearful and full of wonder. "The galaxy isn't ready to know what you are," she said softly. "And maybe, neither are you." Nathan followed her gaze, feeling a strange mix of pride and fear rise in his chest. He didn't know what it meant to be human anymore. But for the first time he began to understand why their kind kept surviving when everything else failed. Because maybe being human wasn't about being perfect. Maybe it was about never stopping to change. The morning after Velra decided to end her experiment, the apartment felt lighter for a moment, like a storm had passed. Nathan cooked breakfast while humming softly, and Velra watched quietly from the table, her hands wrapped around a cup of steaming coffee. It was almost peaceful. For a few hours, things felt normal again, but peace doesn't last when the universe wants answers. That afternoon, Velra's communicator blinked with a strange, glowing signal. The symbol flashing on the screen wasn't one Nathan had ever seen before. But the look on Velra's face told him everything. Her pale eyes widened, her silver skin dimmed, and her hands started shaking. "What is it?" Nathan asked, stepping closer. Velra swallowed hard. "It's a message from Thrixon Command." "They know," Nathan froze. "Know what?" "They've detected the transmission from my lab systems. The data from your DNA. It must have sent a pulse through the quantum link before I shut it down. They want full access to my findings." Her voice trembled with panic. Nathan could hear the fear he had never seen in her before. "They will come for it," she whispered. "They will come for you." He didn't understand. "You mean they'd actually come here? To Earth?" Velra nodded slowly, her voice low and filled with dread. "If they believe your DNA can restore their dying genetics, they will not ask permission. They will take what they need." Nathan felt a chill spread through his chest. He thought aliens were explorers, scientists, maybe even friends. But now it sounded like they were hunters. "What do we do?" he asked. Velra looked at him, her silver eyes shining. "We run, we hide the truth. I must destroy everything I've learned, every file, every recording, every trace of your DNA in my lab." Without another word, she turned and began erasing her data. Holograms flickered and died as her fingers danced across glowing keys. The soft hum of her machines turned into static. Nathan watched as months of research vanished into light. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. Velra looked at him sadly. "I do. If they get this information, humanity will lose its freedom before it ever reaches the stars." Her words hit him hard. He realized this wasn't just about him, it was about the entire human race. Suddenly, the communicator blinked again. This time, a deep voice filled the room, sharp and mechanical. "Velra of Thrixon Prime. You are in violation of Galactic Research Protocol. You have withheld biological data from Command. Prepare for retrieval." Velra's body tensed. "They found us." The lights in the apartment flickered as a low humming filled the air like thunder trapped inside metal. Nathan ran to the window and froze. Above the city skyline, a massive silver ship was descending slowly, its surface glowing with alien energy. It wasn't an invasion fleet, it was worse. It was surgical, precise, designed to take only what it wanted. Velra's hands shook as she grabbed a small metal sphere from her desk and pressed it to her chest. "This will block my location for a short time," she said quickly. "But they will still search for the signal of your DNA. You must leave the city." Nathan grabbed her shoulder. "I'm not leaving you." Velra looked at him, her voice breaking. "Nathan, please. You don't understand. They will erase my memory for what I've done. They will make me forget you. I cannot let them take you too." He stared at her, his heart pounding. "Then we both run." For a moment she looked at him as if she wanted to argue, but then her eyes softened. Maybe in that second she understood what made humans different. They didn't run from pain. They ran together. They left the apartment under the sound of sirens and rushing wind. The sky above was filled with glowing blue lights as drones searched the streets. Velra's cloak shimmered, hiding their bodies from scanners. Nathan could barely breathe as they slipped through alleyways, heart pounding in his ears. When they finally reached the old subway tunnels, Velra stopped. "This is as far as I can go," she whispered. My energy field won't hold for long. I need to destroy the last trace of your DNA here. Nathan shook his head. There has to be another way. Velra looked at him gently. There isn't. The galaxy must never know what you are. She opened a small capsule, releasing a wave of silver light that burned softly in the dark tunnel. The remaining data fragments from her scanners floated out like dust, then disintegrated into nothing. Nathan felt tears sting his eyes. You didn't deserve this, Velra. Nathan felt tears sting his eyes. You didn't deserve this, Velra. She smiled faintly, though her eyes were wet. No, Nathan. I chose this. I wanted to learn about humanity. And now I understand. You don't survive because of your strength, you survive because of your heart. Above them, the sky roared as the alien ship passed overhead, still searching. Nathan looked at Velra and whispered, What happens now? She took his hand softly. Now I keep them away from you, even if it costs me everything. The silver light flickered once more, and then they disappeared into the dark. The tunnels were cold and silent. Water dripped from the ceiling in slow echoes, and the air smelled like rust and stone. Nathan and Velra moved carefully through the darkness, their footsteps splashing softly. The world above them was chaos, sirens, lights, and alien drones scanning every inch of the city. But down here, only the quiet hum of Velra's cloak generator broke the silence. Nathan walked beside her, watching the silver shimmer of her body fade in and out under the faint light. She looked weaker now, her glow dimmed, her breathing heavy. You're running out of energy, he said quietly. Velra nodded slowly. The field drains me. It hides us from scanners, but I can't hold it for long. Then we rest, Nathan said, helping her sit on an old bench. He could feel the tension in her shoulders, the exhaustion that came not just from running, but from fear. For a moment, they just sat there in silence. The air was cold, and Nathan's heart beat fast with anxiety. Above them, somewhere far away, alien ships searched for them. He could feel the weight of the whole galaxy pressing down on that moment. Velra looked at him suddenly, her voice soft. You should go, Nathan. Leave me here. They will focus on me, not you. He frowned. And let them take you? Not a chance, her expression was full of pain. If they capture me, they will erase my memory. I will forget everything, Earth, the city, you. My people do not tolerate betrayal. Nathan's throat tightened. You call this betrayal? You tried to protect us. That's not betrayal. That's bravery. She smiled faintly, the corners of her lips trembling. You humans always use words like bravery, love, sacrifice. To us, those are emotions we study. But for you, they're real. They're powerful. Nathan looked away, his voice low. You make it sound like we're some kind of miracle. Velra reached out and placed a trembling hand on his arm. You are. When I first came here, I thought humans were simple, emotional, chaotic, and weak. But your DNA proves something deeper. Your hearts change your very biology. You are made to survive through compassion. That is something no science can create. Nathan felt his chest tighten. He didn't know what to say. He just looked at her. This alien who had once been a stranger, now risking everything for his species. Suddenly, the walls shook. A deep rumble echoed through the tunnels, followed by flashes of blue light from above. Velra stood up quickly. They found us, Nathan grabbed her arm. What do we do? Velra's eyes glowed faintly as she activated a small device from her belt. There's an escape pod under the old metro station. It was meant for emergencies, but it can take you to the outer atmosphere. They won't detect a human life sign there. He frowned. What about you? Her silence was enough answer. No, Nathan said firmly. I'm not going without you. Velra looked at him, her expression soft and full of sorrow. Nathan, please. You have to live. If I go with you, they will find us both. But if you escape, there's still hope. Humanity will remain free. He shook his head, refusing to move. Velra! Suddenly, the ceiling cracked and a bright beam of light tore through the tunnel. The air filled with the sound of engines. Drones were breaking through. Velra pushed Nathan toward the next corridor. Go now! He hesitated for only a moment, then ran beside her. The tunnels twisted endlessly, filled with dust and light. Behind them, mechanical sounds echoed closer and closer. Finally, they reached an old station buried beneath layers of concrete. In the center stood a small spherical pod covered in dust and spider webs. Velra pressed her hand to its surface and it hummed to life, glowing faintly blue. It still works, she whispered. She opened the pod door, revealing a narrow seat surrounded by control panels. You must go now, Nathan. Once you launch, they won't be able to trace you. Nathan's eyes burned with emotion. You're coming with me. Velra shook her head. If I go, they'll follow the energy signature. But if I stay, I can erase your trail. He grabbed her shoulders. I can't just leave you to die. Velra smiled softly, tears glowing faintly on her silver skin. You're not leaving me. You're carrying me with every heartbeat, every memory. That's more than life. Before he could respond, she placed her hand on his chest. A faint light pulsed between them, warm and alive. Your DNA carries something greater than survival, she said softly. It carries connection. Don't ever forget that. Then, with a gentle push, she guided him into the pod. The door sealed before he could stop her. Velra, he shouted, slamming his fists against the glass. Her voice came through the pod's speaker, calm, soft, full of warmth. Goodbye, Nathan. Remember what makes you human. A flash of light filled the tunnel as the pod launched upward, tearing through layers of rock and air. Nathan looked through the small window and saw Velra standing below, her silver glow fading as the light swallowed her figure. The pod broke through the clouds, leaving Earth's atmosphere behind. Nathan pressed his forehead against the glass, his eyes wet with tears. He whispered her name softly, his voice trembling. Below, the ships continued to search, but they never found her. Velra had erased every trace, every file, every signal, every fragment of data. All that remained was a human heart and an alien sacrifice. And as the pod drifted among the stars, Nathan realized that humanity's greatest secret wasn't hidden in their DNA. It was written in their capacity to love. The pod drifted silently through the black ocean of space. Nathan sat inside, his hands trembling, his heart heavy with grief. The stars looked cold and endless around him, like diamonds scattered over a dark sea. Every breath echoed inside the small cabin. Every beat of his heart reminded him of what he had left behind. Velra's fading glow, her final words, and the look in her eyes before the light swallowed her. He had no destination. The pod was set to travel aimlessly, undetectable and invisible. For hours, or maybe days, he had lost track of time. Nathan stared at the endless void outside. He felt like a ghost drifting between worlds, holding on to a memory that burned brighter than any star. Then, a faint beep broke the silence. The console lit up with soft blue light. Nathan blinked, leaning closer. A small message appeared on the screen, simple, glowing words. Message playback Velra. His breath caught in his throat. Velra? He whispered. He pressed the button with shaking fingers. The air shimmered, and suddenly her image appeared in front of him, a hologram made of light and memory. She looked calm, almost peaceful, though her glow was weaker than before. Nathan. Her voice said, soft and clear, if you are seeing this, then I am gone. His chest tightened painfully. He wanted to speak, but his voice refused to come out. Velra continued, I knew you wouldn't leave if I told you the truth. I stayed behind not just to erase your trail, but to protect something far more important. She paused, her eyes full of quiet warmth. Your DNA sample? The one I studied. It contains something we never understood before. The ability to heal through emotional connection. When one human loves or forgives, it triggers changes in their body, tiny signals that repair, strengthen, evolve. That power can reshape life itself. Nathan stared at her in awe. Velra, you found it! Her voice trembled slightly. Our empire wanted to use your DNA to create new soldiers. Machines that could feel just enough to obey but not enough to question. But I couldn't let that happen, so I destroyed all records, every formula, every code. The only copy now is inside you. Nathan's heartbeat grew louder in his ears. Inside me? Yes, she said softly. Your cells carry what we couldn't reproduce. It's not just biology, it's humanity itself. You are living proof of what your kind can be. She smiled faintly, her voice full of sadness and pride. You once told me humans don't need to be perfect. You said we just need to care enough to try. That changed me, Nathan. It changed everything I believed in, maybe. It can change others too. Her image flickered slightly and the pod lights dimmed as if the ship itself mourned her words. Nathan, if you ever return to Earth, tell them not to fear the stars. Tell them that even among the coldest species, humanity left warmth behind. Tell them I learned what it means to love. Because of you." The message paused for a long moment. Then her final words came, soft, almost a whisper. "Goodbye, my friend. My light will fade, but remember, love leaves traces even the universe cannot erase." The hologram faded. The cabin went dark again except for the faint blinking of the pod's console. Nathan sat there motionless, his hands covering his face. Tears rolled down his cheeks silently, floating like small stars in the air under zero gravity. He didn't know how long he cried. When he finally looked up, the pod's sensors beeped again. A nearby planet came into view, a small blue and white world orbiting a quiet sun. The pod's automatic voice spoke. "Habitable world detected. Landing sequence available." Nathan stared at it through the window. It wasn't Earth, it was something new, untouched. For a long time he hesitated. Then slowly he nodded. "All right, Velra," he whispered. "Let's find a place where your sacrifice means something." He activated the landing system. The pod began to shake as it entered the planet's thin atmosphere. Clouds rushed past and the blue surface grew larger, brighter, and full of promise. When the pod finally touched the ground, Nathan stepped out into soft soil and fresh air. The sky above was filled with unfamiliar constellations, but somehow he felt peace. He looked up, whispering to the stars, "You taught me that life isn't about what we take apart. It's about what we hold together." A gentle breeze brushed his face. For a moment he thought he saw a faint shimmer of silver light among the clouds, like Velra's glow watching over him. Nathan smiled weakly, his heart both heavy and full. "You're still here," he said softly. "Just like you promised." Then he began walking toward the horizon, the last human carrying both the memory of an alien and the future of his kind. The stars above seemed to flicker brighter, as if listening. Years had passed since Nathan left Earth in the escape pod. He never returned home. Instead, he explored the small blue and white planet, slowly making it a place where humans could survive if ever they had to leave their home. He planted trees, built shelters, and cataloged the land carefully, all the while keeping a memory alive, the memory of Velra and her sacrifice. Nathan became a legend in silence. He never shared his story with anyone, because no one would believe him. How could he explain an alien roommate, a DNA experiment, and a galaxy hunting him for what made humans extraordinary? Yet every day he remembered her words. "Your cells carry what we couldn't reproduce. It's not just biology, it's humanity itself. You are living proof of what your kind can be." Nathan didn't know if anyone else would ever understand, but he believed it. That belief carried him through the loneliness, the isolation, and the nights under alien stars. Humanity's secret wasn't just survival. It was hope, love, and the courage to carry it forward. One quiet evening, as Nathan watched two suns set over the horizon, the pod's console blinked softly. A small transmission had arrived, unexpected, untraceable, but unmistakable. He opened it with shaking hands. It was a video file, simple and glowing, titled, "Watch Before It's Gone." Nathan's heart skipped a beat. It was Velra, her holographic image flickering, soft and full of light. She smiled faintly, her voice calm yet filled with emotion.
"Nathan, if you see this, it means the galaxy did not take your path from you."
"They did not erase the memory of your kind. You carry the future, and that is enough. Remember, humans are more than just flesh and blood. You survive because you care, because you fight, because you love. That is why your species endures." Nathan's hand trembled as he pressed the console. Her image shimmered, and her voice continued. "If others come searching, scientists, explorers, or enemies, remember, your greatest strength is invisible. It is your heart, your choices, your ability to connect and adapt. They cannot take that. They cannot replicate it. Protect it, Nathan. Protect humanity." Tears streamed down Nathan's face. She had done this for him, for humanity, for the countless lives that might never know what she had sacrificed. "I will not return," she said softly, "but I will always be with you. And so will your kind if you remember what makes you human." The video ended, leaving Nathan alone under alien skies. Yet he did not feel lonely. Her words were alive in him, like a pulse in his chest, reminding him that he was carrying something far greater than himself. Years turned into decades. Nathan never aged the same way as humans on Earth. The planet's environment was different, and he adapted, slowly becoming stronger and faster. Yet every morning he woke up thinking of Velra, of the sacrifices she made, and of the hidden power within humans that no alien could ever replicate. He began to leave messages, small, encrypted data files scattered across the stars. He shared nothing of technology or location, only fragments of hope, glimpses of the human spirit, lessons in survival and connection. He did this not for glory, not for fame, but because Velra had shown him the truth, that humanity's greatest strength was not in its science, its weapons, or its numbers. It was in its capacity to love, endure, and adapt. Centuries later, explorers from distant worlds would stumble upon Nathan's transmissions. They would marvel at the creatures called humans, a species that survived not because they were the strongest, but because they refused to give up. Some would try to mimic them, others would fear them, and a few would wonder why these humans were always full of hope, even against impossible odds. Nathan, now old in spirit but unchanged in determination, would look up at the stars and smile. Somewhere far away he imagined Velra watching, perhaps proud, perhaps smiling that soft, quiet smile that had always calmed him. He whispered to the empty sky, "We did it, Velra. I kept your promise. Humanity lives and we will never be broken." The stars twinkled back as if answering, the legacy of one alien's sacrifice, one human's courage, and the invisible strength that made a species extraordinary stretched across the galaxy. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were a wonder, a mystery, a hope that even the coldest reaches of space could not erase. And in that moment Nathan knew without doubt that Velra had been right. The galaxy was not ready for humans. But one day it would have to be. And when that day came, humanity would rise, not because of machines, not because of weapons, but because of their hearts. And